About those things that get in the way of life. Either the things you're meant to do, or the things that you're supposed to do, or whatever. That one thing. I've got to give to charity. I've got to check my weight. I've got to run more carefully. I've got to not be late. But I've just got to do this one thing first. I've got to write my will. I've got to check my savings. I've got to take my pill. I've got to curtail my cravings. But I've just got to do this one thing first. I've got to balance my books. I've got to curb my spending. I've got to not care about looks. I've got to stop pretending. But I've just got to do this one thing first. I've got to fix that leak. I've got to mend that wall. I've got to work on my physique. I've got to make that call. But I've just got to do this one thing first. I've got to see this doctor. I've got to see my shrink. I've got to see my dentist. I've got to step away from the brink. But I've just got to do this one thing first. I've got to fix that leak. I've got to mend that wall. I've got to work on that my physique. I've got to make that call. But I've just got to do this one thing first. I've got to get off the couch. I've got to start living. I've got to fix my slouch. I've got to give up giving in. But I've just got to do this one thing first. I've got to give up cigarettes. I've got to rein in the booze. I've got to work on my words that I can't remember sometimes. I've got to make sure that I do that other thing, but that one thing keeps getting in the way. I've got to tell you I love you. I've got to tell you I care. I've got to tell you what you mean to me. I've got to tell you that I will always be there. But I've just got to do this one thing first. I've got to face my fears. I've got to see you all as my peers. I've got to wipe away those tears. I've got to make the most of these last few precious years. But thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for standing out the country. I think the penultimate poem, unfortunately this was based on a true story, the parable of the poet, the actor, and the violinist. A poet, an actor, and a violinist walk into a bar. They pull pennies from pockets to buy for pints after being weary from a week's worth of work and worry. And as the bartender pours, the poet, the actor, and the violinist begin to share their lives. The poet says, "I'm so lonely." The actor says, "I hate my small part." The violinist says, "I've broken all of my strings." The poet says to the actor, "I wish I had a troupe to hang around with." The actor says to the poet, "I wish I could write my own words." The actor says to the violinist, "I wish I could make people feel no matter the language." The violinist says to the actor, "I wish I could tell a story." The poet says to the violinist, "I wish I had rhythm without having to rhyme all the time." The violinist says to the poet, "I wish I had your power." The poet says to the actor and the violinist, "I hate being a poet." The actor says to the poet and the violinist, "I hate being an actor." The violinist says to the poet and the actor, "I hate being a violinist." The poet looks at the actor looks at the violinist looks at the poet looks at the violinist looks at the actor looks at the poet. The poet says to the actor and the violinist, "I would much rather be an actor or a violinist, anything but a poet." The actor says to the poet and the violinist, "I'd much rather be a poet or a violinist, anything but an actor." The violinist says, "I'd much rather be a poet or an actor, anything but a violinist." The poet, the actor, and the violinist drink their last drops and wordlessly search through soundless pockets. The bartender rings a bell and calls last orders, all the while wishing to be a poet or an actor or a violinist. Thank you. Lost Matt, I'll do one anyway. Right, ladies and gentlemen, the last poem you may hear for the rest of your lives, who knows? Or forced to listen to, that's another question. If I point to this side of the room, let's divide you two best friends up. Move up, split up. My teacher, you two are badly behaved, move apart. You two, there's a line there, you can stay together, that's fine. If I put, no, move. If I point to this side of the room, including people on the outside, can you shout out the word glove? As in what you wear, glove. Glove! It's alright, it's not too bad. If I shout to this side of the room, you and everyone there, bar staff, great, anyone behind that wall that can't hear me anyway. If I point to this side of the room, can you shout out the word sock? As in on your foot. Sock! Excellent.
Glove! Sock! Glove!
I'm going to get used to that. If I do this, ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to shout out the most important word in the English language, which is...
Glove!
There's always one person that lowers the tone. It makes the world go round. Love. Love, of course it is. Excellent. The glove and the sock. The and the had hardly met. They lived quite separate lives. What each they thought they knew of one was gossip, rumours, lies. The looked down upon the and thought it dull and flat, with stumpy fingers ball for palm. Or what was the point of that? But on the other foot, the I thought the a prude, it hung above the floor so high, just pointing, which is rude. The thought badly of the thought less of. They screamed and moaned, and until they showed that they really couldn't ever truly feel the emotion of love. As this went on and on and on, the tailor wore a smile. A man of textile talent, of taste and grace and style. But then one night, all thimbled up, toiling hard to finish work, he became distracted by a din, those two both going berserk. Now the tailor doesn't like loose strings, and hating quarrels more. Set out to teach them both a lesson neither could ignore. He took a needle and some thread, and while they slept, he sewed. And when they woke, oh shock, oh fright, a wicked curse bestowed. The had now become was low instead of high, and fell ill above. The tailor laughed and left the pair to live the other's lot. The forever now, the forever together now. They had to work to help and teach the other. Must live life as the other. Felt all the weight of man, but learned to walk and run. Caught fingers in the till, but learned to count to sum. Kept toes or toasty warm and didn't sweat or reek. Now kept the fingers warm and hopefully made them feel better. Saw how was great and kept the feet all snug. Saw how was great at waving or a hug. Learned a lesson in, and 3 years they lived their lives, were never seen apart. Last time, each palm and soul and heart. I've been Luigi Coppola, thank you very much. Thanks so much. Thank you.
One more time now for Luigi Coppola. What an amazing orator. Looks similar indeed to some